Okay, two reacting to songs with certain backstories by your boy Tov, your boy. Let's do this shit.
Songs with disturbing backstories, part 3.
Stop freezing. Bitch.
So you guys have been asking for this video for about 2 years now, and why not give the people what they want? We're going back to list videos on this channel rather than focusing on solo topic videos, and if you want me to be completely honest, it's just because they were flopping. I mean, why not just give the people what they want as well as the channel does better? I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. That's why we're going back to list videos, and also they are fun. I'll be honest with you guys, list videos have always been fun, and I am going to sprinkle in some solo topic videos here and there. And if you aren't subscribed, I'll earn your subscription by the end of this video. And this video is a little bit different from parts 1 and 2 because I actually got recommendations from you guys. I posted on my community tab asking for recommendations, and you guys pulled through. And to make it clear, I'm only going to be talking about songs based on real scenarios. So no talking about Sarah by Tyler the Creator that he made for the sake of being edgy. There is no real backstory there. Are you guys following me? The songs in this video have pretty disturbing and real backstories. So I'm warning you guys right now, it's going to get heavy. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's get started with songs with disturbing backstories part 3.
What's the worst?
The Way by Fastball. If I were to summarize this one, I'd say Fastball's 1998 hit The Way romanticized a truly tragic disappearance in a nice way. A way that definitely left an unforgettable mark on listeners. Now, just so we're on the same page, a little background. Fastball is an alternative rock band from Austin, Texas, consisting of Tony Scalzo, Miles Zuniga, and Joey Shoefield. The band has had a fair share of success because while some of their projects, like their debut album Make Your Mama Proud, struggled to gain traction, it only sold 5,500 copies, others, like their second album, All the Pain Money Can Buy, propelled them into mainstream success and even got them Grammy nominations. And right at the center of that success was a song we're going to be talking about, The Way. Described as a dreamy, sunny shuffle and exquisite harmonies, it surprisingly went on to spend 7 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Modern Rock Tracks chart in 1998. Unknown to many, at least as it made circles, but beneath the catchy melody was a rather sad story based on real-life events. The events being the case of Leela and Raymond Howard, an elderly couple from Salado, Texas. Apparently, Leela was 83 and showing signs of dementia, while Raymond, 88, was recovering from brain surgery after being in a car accident. Despite their health challenges, they were inseparable and deeply in love. A rare romance that is said to have taken off late in their life after both had lost their first spouses, meaning both were in their second marriage. They also shared a love for church, and they're said to have had a late-in-life lust to live. Anyway, on June 28, 1997, the Howards set out for their favorite annual fiddling festival in Temple, Texas, just 15 miles away from their place in Belton. It was a tradition they cherished. However, this trip would take a tragic turn. After leaving, the couple never returned home. They seemed to have just vanished. By evening, their family grew worried and reported them missing. As the days passed without any sign of them, their disappearance became a Texas-wide mystery. Headlines about them, like "Family Remains Mystified by Disappearance," began floating all over and, maybe as expected, captivated lots of readers, including a man named Tony Scalzo, the lead vocalist for Fastball. Scalzo said it was a director's idea for him to look into the newspaper for musical inspiration, and that happened to have been the story that was running at the time. He followed it closely as reports trickled in. It turned out the Howards had been spotted hundreds of miles away in Arkansas on June 29th, stopped twice by police for driving without headlights, and then with high beams on. Both times they were given warnings and sent back on their way, despite showing signs of disorientation. At one stop, Leela asked for directions back to Texas, but had continued driving deeper into Arkansas. Their car was later seen at a farmer's market in Arkansas before vanishing completely. Search parties combed through multiple states for 2 weeks, but found no trace of the couple. Then soon after, a tragic discovery followed. On July 12th, as reported, 2 boys walking home from a video store near Hot Spring, Arkansas, noticed a strong odor coming from a ravine off State Highway 7. They reported it to their dad, who then told the police. Investigators discovered the Howards' maroon Oldsmobile at the bottom of a 25 feet steep cliff hidden by dense bush. Raymond's body was apparently still in the car, while Leela's was found about 20 feet away holding her purse and car keys. It appeared she might have tried to help Raymond after the crash before succumbing to her own injuries. Now there are more details than that, and all are pretty devastating. Like, there were no skid marks on the road above, for example, suggesting the couple hadn't slowed down before plunging off the cliff. Whether it was due to confusion or the inability to see danger ahead remained unclear. Now, going back a little bit, when Scalzo first read about the Howards' disappearance, it was before their fate was known. So he imagined a romanticized version of their journey. He said they weren't lost or confused. They had simply decided to escape
I'm recording
and
here.
relive their youth on an endless road trip. That's the vision that inspired him to write The Way, with lyrics like, they made up their minds and they started packing. They left before the sun came up that day. An exit to eternal summer slacking. They drank up the wine and they got to talking, but now had more important things to say. And when the car broke down, they started walking. Where were they going without ever knowing the way? Anyone could see the road they walk on is paved with gold. And it's always summer. They never get cold. They'll never get hungry. They'll never get old and gray. You can see their shadows wandering off somewhere. They won't make it home, but they don't really care. They wanted the highway. They're happier there. Today, today. By the time Fastball recorded the song and they were done, news broke out about the couple's tragic end. The Way became an instant hit until today. It stands as one of Fastball's most iconic tracks. And as for the family, they were happy. Alfred, the couple's granddaughter, for example, said how much honor she felt when she realized the song was for her grandma. I Don't Like Mondays by the Boomtown Rats. Okay, so this next one. The Boomtown Rats' 1979 hit, I Don't Like Mondays. It can be summed up as one of the most haunting tracks of its time, given that it's a song modeled after a rather senseless tragedy. But before we get into it, a little bit of background on the band. So, the Boomtown Rats were an Irish new wave rock band fronted by a man named Bob Geldof, who would later become famous for organizing Live Aid, a massive charity concert that helped famine victims in Ethiopia. Known for their energetic performances and Geldof's moody charisma, the Rats rode the wave of the punk and new wave movements that were going on in the late 1970s. Now, the specific song we're covering here, I Don't Like Mondays, was released as the lead single from their third album, The Fine Art of Suffering. It quickly became a chart-topping hit in the UK, where the band had the most fan base, and then worldwide, where it made the US Billboard Hot 100 chart. In the UK, it particularly stuck at the top, spending 4 weeks at number 1, and generally solidifying the band's place in the rock music scene. The story behind it, though, is anything but cheerful. On January 29, 1979, Brenda Ann Spencer, a 16-year-old girl living in San Diego, California, committed what would later be recognized as one of the first modern school shootings in America. Armed with a semi-automatic .22 caliber rifle, a Christmas gift from her father, Spencer had begun firing from her bedroom window at Grover Cleveland Elementary School, located directly across the street from her home. This happened as children waited outside as Principal Burton Ragg to open the gates. In the process, she killed Ragg as he tried to protect the students and also fatally hit custodian Mike Suchar, who was attempting to pull Ragg to safety. Then, 8 children and 1 police officer were injured during the rampage. In total, Spencer had fired 30 rounds before barricading herself inside her home for nearly 7 hours. Now, rather surprisingly, when reporters managed to reach Spencer by phone during the standoff and asked why she had committed such an atrocity, her response was chillingly bizarre. I don't like Mondays. This livens up the day. She then later added that she thought it was, quote, fun, and told reporters she had to go back and shoot some more. Eventually, she surrendered after being promised a Burger King meal by negotiators. Yes, a Burger King Whopper meal is what got her to surrender. After killing a bunch of innocent people, that's what got her. Anyway, Bob Geldof apparently first learned about the shooting while doing a radio interview at Georgia State University's campus station. A telex reporting detailing Spencer's actions and her infamous quote had caught his attention. Geldof described his reaction as, not liking Mondays as a reason for killing somebody is a bit strange. It was such a senseless act. The perfect senseless act. And it was the perfect senseless reason for doing it. Inspired by both the absurdity and horror of Spencer's statement, Geldof immediately wrote I Don't Like Mondays. He tried to get into the perspective of Spencer, for example with the song's opening line, the silicone chip inside her head gets switched to overload. That was his way of capturing her messed up motive. He also insisted, after concerns, that he wasn't exploiting the tragedy or making Spencer famous, but rather trying to illustrate its senselessness. The silicone chip inside her head gets switched to overload, and nobody's going to go to school today. She's going to make them stay at home. And Daddy doesn't understand it. He always said she was good as gold, and he could see no reasons, because there are no reasons. What reason do you need to be shown?
Well, he never really notices either.
And it ties to the world, and Mother feels so shocked. Father's world is rocked, and their thoughts turn to their own little girl. Sweet 16,
Pod didn't
that
notice,
peachy
I
heat.
think.
Now that ain't so neat to admit defeat. They can see no reasons, because there are
I've
no
ever in my
reasons.
house,
What
nobody
reasons
says
do you
anything.
need? Now, for the curious ones,
They do, like,
Spencer was
DJ
charged as an
smokes in
adult
the
and
house.
sentenced to
Yeah,
life
no
in
shit,
prison
that's
with a
worse-
chance of
that's
parole
worse
after
than
25
does.
years, as of 2025.
And honestly,
Interestingly,
the
her
landlord
case is often cited as the
doesn't want
beginning
us
of school
doing it, but
shootings in
hey,
the US, as we
they
know
still
it
fucking
today.
do it.
Now, the song became an international sensation despite the messed up inspiration. Geldof said he intended for it to get on side B of their album, but after it was a hit on his US tour at the time, he brought it to the forefront. And while some radio stations in San Diego refused to play it out of respect for the victims, it reached #1 on the UK charts and won an award, Best Pop Song at the Ivor Novello Awards. Also, I do want to mention that there will be a YouTube playlist and a Spotify playlist in case you guys want to check out these songs for yourself. You don't have to go out of your way to look them up. Those links will be in the description. As for my Tidal, SoundCloud, and Apple Music users, I'm sorry, I do have SoundCloud, but I don't have those playlists for you. You can just use the YouTube one and make your own playlist maybe. But yeah, I want you guys to check out the songs. So don't click that yet, because don't ruin the watch time on this video. Keep watching the video. Make it all the way through. Let's head on to the next one. Tears in Heaven, Eric Clapton. Alright, so guys, before we get into this one, this is personally the one that gets you, boy. This one gets me, alright? And not a lot of stuff that I research gets me, but I'm letting you guys know this is my saddest one on this list. That's objective, you know, but personally this is the one that makes me tear up every single time. So let's get into Tears in Heaven by Eric Clapton. Now, this song is one of the more widely known songs on this list, 2.8 million copies sold, and arguably, of course, I'd say it's among one of the most touching songs ever written. Why? Well, for the exact reason as to why it's on this list. It is a deeply personal piece born from the unimaginable pain of losing a 4-year-old son to a regrettable accident. Released in 1992, I'll sum this one up as a story of grief, love, and healing. The story goes back to March 20th, 1991. This is a day when Connor Clapton, Eric Clapton's son, fell to his death from a 53rd floor from a New York City apartment building. Connor was staying with his mother, Italian actress and model Lori Del Santo, in a Manhattan condo on 57th Street. Apparently, that morning, a janitor had been cleaning the huge building windows while Del Santo, Connor, and their maid were getting ready to visit the Central Zoo. Del Santo had warned the maid to not let Connor out of her sight, even for a second, because of the cleaning that was going on. This was around 11 in the morning. Now, Connor is said to have begun playing hide-and-seek and running around. At one point, the maid was running after him, and he went right past the janitor. For a second, the janitor stopped the maid to tell her that Connor had slid open the window and squeezed through, and unfortunately, that's the moment he'd fall over. Del Santo remembers the maid letting out a dreadful scream at that exact moment. The fall was fatal. Eric Clapton, who was in New York at the time but not staying in the same apartment, had spent the previous day with Connor at the circus. It was one of their happiest moments together, a memory Clapton would later sort of immortalize in another song, Circus. Connor himself is also said to have spent the entire morning that day talking about the elephants they saw at the zoo. Truly tragic, and the weight of the incident would go on to devastate Eric Clapton in many ways. As he later stated in interviews, Connor's birth had inspired him to get sober and become a better father, learning what it really meant to be a real father. Losing him sent Clapton into a spiral of grief that would take years to process. In the aftermath of Connor's death, Clapton turned to music, and this seemed to have served him in two ways, healing his emotions and honoring his son's memory. He collaborated with songwriter Will Jennings to craft Tears in Heaven, which interestingly became part of the soundtrack for the 1991 film Rush. The lyrics simply reflect raw grief and lingering questions that honestly anyone would ask after a loss. Alright, so I'm about to read some of the lyrics, and remember, this is dedicated to his son. Okay. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would it be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, because I know I don't belong here in heaven. Would you hold my hand if I saw you in heaven? Would you help me stand if I saw you in heaven? Beyond the door, there's peace, I'm sure, and I know there will be no more tears in heaven. So this song gets to me because the idea of someone forgetting who you are in heaven, especially a child, your child, breaks my mind, honestly. The age gap only gets bigger as time passes by, and Connor is still 4 years old. And just the concept of literally, like I said, going to heaven and the kid still being 4, oh, it's just, yeah, I know that burying your own child is the worst pain imaginable, and I guess he really captured it in this song. Even fans admit that knowing what the song is about, it's hard to listen to because of the relatability or the shared empathy. And like I started by saying, Tears in Heaven was released in January of 1992, and it became an instant hit. It reached #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and top charts worldwide. The song earned Clapton 3 Grammy Awards in 1993, Song of the Year, Record of the Year, and Best Male Pop Vocal Performance. Also, apparently, fans wrote to Clapton by the thousands, sharing their own stories of loss and thanking him for giving voice to their pain. Clapton later said that he received at least 150 letters a day from people dealing with grief who found comfort in his music. Also, while Tears in Heaven made him shoot to the top of the charts, it also marked a turning point in his life. He credited his ability to stay sober through this period as a way of honoring Connor's memory. In his autobiography, Clapton wrote, "There was no better way to honor the memory of my son. I had found a way to turn this dreadful tragedy into something positive." Now back to the song. It also became part of his critically acclaimed Unplugged album from 1992, where its stripped-down acoustic version seemed to resonate even more deeply with audiences. Years later, though, in 2004, Clapton stopped performing it live. He explained that he no longer felt connected to the raw emotions that inspired it. "I didn't feel the loss anymore. They're kind of gone, and I really don't want them to come back." However, he acknowledged how much the song had helped them and countless others in coping with grief. He would, however, resume performing it in 2022. Christmas Kids, Roar. Next up is Christmas Kids by Roar. If you're Gen Z, you've probably already heard this song. You probably spammed the comments of my last video to cover this song, so here you go. This is for you guys, and any other age group, well, you're in for a depressing treat. So yeah, the song is popular on TikTok, and even though it sounds like an upbeat, normal song, when you really get into the lyrics, like every other song in this list, there's gonna be some disturbing backstory. Released in 2010 as part of the EP I Can't Handle Change, this song particularly caught eyeballs for holding a rather dark inspiration. Ironically titled Christmas Kids, the song draws inspiration from the difficult and abusive relationship between music producer Phil Spector and his wife Ronnie Spector, lead singer of the Ronettes. Their marriage, which lasted from 1968 to 1974, was marked by Phil's alleged controlling and violent behavior towards Ronnie. Now this guy, Phil Spector, known for his innovative wall of sound production technique, is said to have had a really manipulative hold over Ronnie. He apparently subjected her to various forms of abuse, including physical violence and emotional manipulation. Phil would, for instance, often lock Ronnie inside their Beverly Hills mansion, which he had basically turned into a kind of virtual prison complete with barbed wire and guard dogs. Also, as reported, turns out the abuse Ronnie endured was severe as well as multifaceted. Phil would, for example, threaten her life, hide her shoes to prevent her from escaping, and isolate her from friends and family. Even crazier, he is said to have even had a glass coffin in their basement, threatening to display her dead body in it if she tried to leave him.
The gates were up and the barbed wire, and I found myself in a prison. I couldn't get out.
Ronnie Spector told Inside Edition in 1991 that Spector threatened to take her life.
"If you leave, I'm going to kill you."
Now, one of the most disturbing aspects of their relationship, which inspired the song's title, was Phil's act of, quote, gifting Ronnie with adopted twins for Christmas in 1971. Yes, he was manipulative enough to gift her adopted twins so that it's harder for her to leave.
They were out in front playing around the fountain. He said, "Happy birthday."
A tactic, she says, that was meant to keep her tethered to her crazy husband. She made her escape barefoot 6 months later and lost custody of the children.
Listening to the song, that might not be obvious though, because as explained by Evans, the artist, these dark realities and truths are captured behind the facade of 1960s pop romance, upbeat and nostalgic melody. Only a keen analysis of the lyrics show hints of the pain and manipulation that Ronnie experienced. Also, Evans' own take of the song's context is that back in the 60s, there was a very common theme in pop music, women being dependent on men or relationships to feel valued and loved. And unfortunately, this sometimes can be in the form of a power imbalance that's difficult to correct. Like Ronnie being 17 and Phil being 24 when they met. That, of course, meant control, and the song captures that too. Allow me to read you some lyrics from the song. "Ronette, my dear, don't ever disappear. Do what you need as long as you stay here. I need you now, I love you so much. More than you could know. The Christmas kids were nothing but a gift. And love is a tower where all of us can live. You'll change your name or change your mind, and leave this a place behind. But I'll know, I'll know. I'll know, I'll know. I'll know, I'll know. I'll know, I'll know." Now, the song was a hit when it came out, but like I said, TikTok made it a hit again, especially in the UK. It even got into the UK single charts at number 58 in 2023, and in the process marked Roar's first appearance on an international music chart. Zombie by the Cranberries. The 90s had some pretty iconic songs, and I might argue that this one, Zombie by the Cranberries, stands as one of those, at least when it comes to powerful protest songs. It was born from the unfortunate tragedy of the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Troubles was basically this violent period between the 60s and 90s, where riots, bombings, and revenge murders were the order of day in Northern Ireland as Catholics and Protestants beefed out. Now this song, released in 1994, was written about one of such incidents. Apparently, lead singer Dolores O'Riordan wrote it in response to the 1993 IRA bombing in Warrington, England, which killed 2 young boys. The incident happened on March 20th, 1993 in Warrington, when the IRA, Irish Republican Army, planted 2 bombs in cast iron litter bins on Bridge Street, a busy shopping area, and this was on a Saturday, the busiest shopping day of the week. As reported, The bombs exploded within a minute of each other, killing 2 young boys and injuring 54 others. 3-year-old Jonathan Ball lost his life instantly at the scene, while 12-year-old Tim Perry was critically injured and died 5 days later when his life support was switched off. Also, even worse about the situation was that the attack occurred the day before Mother's Day, just adding to the tragedy's messed up nature, especially to the affected families. Now, Dolores O'Riordan, the lead singer of the Cranberries, was apparently deeply affected by this event. At the time, the band was on tour in the UK, promoting their debut album. In an interview at a UK radio Classic Rock, O'Riordan recalled, "I remember at the time there were a lot of bombs going off in England, and the troubles were pretty bad. I remember being on tour and in the UK at the time, and just being really sad about it. This emotional impact led O'Riordan to write Zombie as a protest against the ongoing violence and the impact it had on innocent lives. The writing process started while they were still in England. The song apparently came to her subconsciously. Then once back home in Limerick, Ireland, she wrote the rest of it one night in her apartment, starting with the core chords on an acoustic guitar. Another head hangs lowly. Child is slowly taken. And the violence caused such silence. Who are we mistaken? But you see, it's not me, it's not my family. In your head, they are fighting. With their tanks and their bombs and their bombs and their guns. In your head, they are crying." Initially titled In Your Head, the song then took shape during band rehearsals, where O'Riordan insisted on a heavier, more aggressive sound to match the anger in her lyrics. This ended up with the song's nature being rather aggressive and a total departure from the band's usual collaborative process, but that was a good thing because it carried the raw emotion and frustration felt in response to the senseless violence. As for the meaning, O'Riordan used the metaphor of a zombie to describe the dehumanizing effects of war and violence on individuals and communities. The lyrics generally express frustration with the ongoing conflict, emphasizing that the violence doesn't represent all Irish people. People loved it, and it became one of, if not their biggest hit. It even topped charts in several countries: Denmark, Australia, Belgium, France, Iceland, and Germany, and won the Best Song Award in the 1995 MTV Europe Music Awards. I was actually talking about this song to my friends Brandon and Josh today, and Josh actually said that Linger is their better song. Guys, let me know who was right in the situation. I think Zombie is the Cranberries' best song. He says it's Linger. Maybe it's one that we haven't even heard yet, that isn't one of the mainstream ones. But out of those two specifically, I think it's the better one. I think Zombie's not way better. I think Zombie's better than Linger. Come on, you guys rocking with me on that one? Or what? Come on. Alright, so on to the next one. Bleed by Deadmau5. Speaking of songs that depart from an artist or band's typical style, this next one falls dead center with that category.